Very good afternoon to everyone watching us live from across the globe. On this auspicious occasion, I would like to wish everyone a happy Teachers' Day, first of all. And as we all know that we are gathered here for the webinar on role of afatinib in managing first-line EGFR mutation positive patients and sequencing of lung TKIs, organized by Indian International Association of Oncology in association with BioLegs and supported by BI. So our speaker for the afternoon is Professor Dr. Ghanshyam Biswas sir, uh, medical oncologist and executive director, Spurs Hospitals, Bhubaneswar. Sir, we welcome you to the webinar, and I would like you to take over.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish, and all the audience and the viewers. So happy Teachers' Day, and hope everybody is safe in these COVID times. And so, really, the mankind in this pandemic has been going through a tough time, and especially those who are as a frontline workers. So today's webinar, so we'll be talking on non-small cell lung cancer, EGFR TKI. So we'll talk on afatinib, which is a research molecule from the Boehringer. And so though the second speaker is today not available, so we'll try to cover up both the topics. So first slide, please, Ashish. First slide. Yeah, so this is an opening remark. So because these days the medical fraternity has to go through an webinars daily. So the topic will be afatinib. So I have termed it as a versatile EGFR TKI in a metastatic non-small cell lung cancer. Next. So before we go into a topic of versatile EGFR, so these are some of the Bollywood stars, and we know that amongst these five, so we have lost two of them in the recent times, in fact in the COVID times only. So they are supposed to be a versatile actors. That means so they can fit into any role. Next. So in this COVID time, so the medical fraternity has to go through lots of webinars. So with time, you need to understand that COVID is here to stay, and we are into a new normal. So to update yourself, so probably you have to select your webinars judiciously, because if you see in these pictures, 2009, if you see, so there is a helicopter, so there is a man with a camera. So the technology advances in 1 decade. So neither the job of the pilot is there, so neither the job of the cameraman is there. Next. So if you talk about the cancer burden, we know that the cancer incidence is increasing globally, so as in our country. And this is the Globocan data of 2018, that is 2 years back. If you look at the incidence, so there are first 5 common cancers, so out of which lung cancer stands out to be the most common. In terms of mortality or death because of cancer, amongst 5 common causes, again, so lung cancer stands out to be the most common. Next. So mortality and incidence wise, so lung cancer has been in the forefront. So now look at the lung cancer incidence in India. So the Globocan data. So and today and in a futuristic. So what is going to happen in 10 years and 20 years from now? So you see, so that is exponentially increasing. If we talk about lung cancer. Next. Yeah. So mortality. So in spite of so much of, just go back. In spite of so much of advances, but still, so lung cancer is the one cancer where, so once you detect, so 1 out of 10 probably undergoes under the knife of a surgeon, and rest 9 patients probably will require some other forms of local therapy like radiotherapy, and most of these they'll end up with a systemic therapy. Next. So if you talk about an advanced lung cancer, so where surgery is not feasible, nor even radiotherapy, unless and until it's a palliative, so we have reached a ceiling for improved benefit of cytotoxic chemotherapy in an advanced non-small cell. So if you look at the trial of ECOG 1594, so the platinum combinations, so either with paclitaxel, gemcitabine, docetaxel, or switching over to carboplatin with the paclitaxel. So you can see all the four curves are almost kissing each other. Next. So with this, the survival of 1 year survival was only a plateau of 30 to 50%. So if you look at how things have fared in non-small cell, and especially if we talk about adenocarcinomas, so in earlier years, early decades, so probably a best supportive care. So a patient was not surviving beyond 3 months. Then single agent platinum. So while we improved the survival, then platinum doublet came as a standard. Then we need to understand the histology based therapies, and so it took the survival beyond a year. And once we understood the biology and the targets, so now we are looking into a non-small cell, especially adenocarcinomas, where survival has reached beyond 1.5 years. Next. So treatment selection is moving from being a histology based to a targeting oncogenic drivers. So lung cancer is not a single entity today. So neither non-small cell is a single entity today. So you need to separate non-small cell from small cell, and in non-small cell you need to separate a non-squamous versus a squamous. Next. So a substantial number of patients are EGFR mutated, and the incidence varies by ethnicity. If you look at the Caucasians, probably they are the least to have EGFR mutated. Coming to African American, so probably somewhat increased. Coming to Latin America, again 30%. If you look at our own country, so 1 out of 3 will be EGFR mutated. And if you put together Asians, especially the Japanese, so probably there is an increase to the tune of 50% of these patients will have a EGFR mutated. That means, so in these patients, so probably you won't require chemotherapy in the upfront setting. So that is why I said it is very difficult to kill a Japanese because they are so much EGFR, though so frequent is the EGFR mutations, that you can always target and improve the survival. Next. So almost 60% of the patients with lung cancer are diagnosed after metastasis, so leading to a 5-year survival rate of not even a double figure, that is 5%. So as you go down the stage, so survival has come down. It will come down. If you look at the 5 years relative survival for a metastatic EGFR mutated adenocarcinomas, so we have improved the survival by 3 times, but that is again not enough. So probably we have to work more harder and improve the survival in those special population, that is EGFR mutated lung cancers. Next. So today, once you see a metastatic non-small cell, if I am talking about an adenocarcinoma, so probably, so once these patients are well staged, so you need to have a molecular subtyping of these patients in the hand before you plan your start on treatment. Today, if you are doing an ISC or a PCR base, so probably it will take 7 to 10 days. If you are planning for an NGS base, so it will take something about more than 2 weeks or less than 3 weeks. So if you are picking up an EGFR mutated, so then you are going to have an EGFR TKI. If you are picking up an ALK, so probably you have to use an anti-ALK, Roche, BRAF. So now probably we have all targeted drugs for this population of patients. So in those patients where the druggable mutations are not there, so probably you will have some patients with a PDL activity of more than 50%, where you can think of starting as a single agent of immunotherapy. If the PDL1 activity is not seen, or if there are no druggable mutations, then these patients are a candidate of for a standard and a conventional chemotherapy doublet, platinum based. Next. So if you talk about the timelines in progress of EGFR, so you can see so much of things has happened in last 2.5 decades or 3 decades. So moving from understanding the receptor, diagnosing the receptors, and then founding the right targets. Next. If we talk about the afatinib, which is second generation, so you can see, so that has also gone through several checkpoints, and ultimately so getting approved in a first line, getting approved in a second line setting, getting approved for a squamous carcinomas, and so on. Next. So what are the common EGFR mutations? So if we're talking about EGFR mutations, we should understand that commonly we're talking about exon 18, 19, 20, and 21. So if you see the upper ones, the sensitive mutations, so mentioned above these bars are the sensitive mutations. If you are talking about a resistant mutation, so that I mentioned below. So to make it more simplified, so 85% of these sensitive mutations are contributed from the exon 19, that is deletion, and and 40% is by the exon 21, that is L858R, and rest that are not mentioned here. Those are supposed to be uncommon mutations or rare mutations, but that again happening in 1 or 2 out of 10 of your patients who are found to be EGFR positive. So if you look at the resistant mutation T790M, so where this is have come of importance after the discovery of osimertinib, which is a third generation. Coming to EGFR, if you look at the clinical profile, so Asians, especially females, non-smokers, or those who have led smoking more than 2 decades or so, and adenocarcinoma or bronchoalveolar carcinoma. So these are clinical parameters where you can probably pick up that these patients might turn out to be having a EGFR mutation. Next. So EGFR TKI, so now first generation, second generation, third generation, so these all three are available with us. So in the research in the lab, so there is already a fourth generation TKI also. So probably in time to come we'll have those. So at this moment, so we have a first generation, second generation, and the third generation. Next. So the different generations of EGFR TKI and activity range, we can see the first generation, which is erlotinib and gefitinib. The second generation is afatinib and dacomitinib, and the third generation is osimertinib. If we look at their actions, so if we talk about the first generation, so there's EGFR inhibition. So these are reversible binding, and they don't have a action on T790 mutations. Looking at the second generation, there is afatinib and dacomitinib. So they have a different mechanism. So they are ERBB family blockade. So they have a irreversible covalent binding to these receptors. And the osimertinib is basically this got approved as a first mutant-specific inhibitor, that is T790. Next. So before we go into afatinib, so now another new second generation drug, that is dacomitinib, which is a new kid on the block. If we talk about the as a second generation, so now, so I think that second generation EGFR TKI place is getting more solidified with afatinib, with its strong data, and with dacomitinib coming into the picture. Next. So this is a summary slide for all those patients who can be a candidate for EGFR therapy either alone or in combinations. So if you see this, so you can have 8 choices. So starting from gefitinib, which came into limelight after the IPAS trial, erlotinib after the optimal and the EUROTEC trial, afatinib we have the Lux Lung series, and especially if we talk about the first line, that is Lux Lung 3 and Lux Lung 6, and avortinib in Lux Lung 7 comparison of a second generation with the first generation. As I said, dacometinib is the new kid in the block from the Archer 1050, and there are combinations of this anti-EGFR, especially with the first generations with anti-VEGF. So these probably will have some special populations, so we can always discuss later on. So what we can see on the first left hand side, the overall response rate. So definitely in a advanced non-small cell lung cancers, so the response rates significantly improved to the tune of 2.5 to 3 times as compared to those patients who were receiving chemotherapy before the advent of EGFR mutations. Looking at the PFS, which has improved a modest as compared to a cytotoxic combinations. But if you look at the almost the right hand side, so median overall survival probably was not much seen in all these drugs in combination or alone. So none of the first and second EGFR TKI have shown significant overall survival in EGFR mutation in stage 4 or advanced non-small cell adenocarcinoma, except, so we are talking about afatinib in deletion 19 and the third generation osimertinib. Next. To simplify the role of anti-EGFR TKI in the first line, so we have a robust response rate, as I said, almost to the 2.5 to 3 times as compared to the chemotherapy comparator, a PFS which is modest, and in these pictures you can see, so overall survival, so definitely is not as compared to the responses and the progression-free survival. Next. So within last 2 years, I can say the options for the first line treatment in a metastatic EGFR mutated non-small cell. So at some point of time, a decade and a half back, so we had only one drug of gefitinib, and today you can see on the left hand side we have a first generation gefitinib erlotinib, second generation afatinib dacometinib, and third generation osimertinib, which are already in practice and in place. On the right hand side, you can see the combinations of first generations EGFR TKI with any of the anti-VEGF, that is erlotinib and bevacizumab, that is NEG trial, the erlotinib and ramucirumab from the Eli Lilly relay trial, and gefitinib plus chemotherapy, that is pemetrexed and platinum, which was by the TMS group, Dr. Banita and Kumar Prabhas. Next. So options, there were none, and today we have so much of options. Again, summarizing the activity of EGFR TKI in the first generations and second generation and the third generation. So if you talk about the first generation, so gefitinib, especially the first drug which came into practice, so this acts on EGFR mutated patients, no activity in the wild type or T790. If you talk about the erlotinib, which was the next first generation EGFR TKI, it works in a mutated, it also works in a wild type setting. So probably that is the reason that erlotinib also got an approval for a squamous cell carcinoma. Coming to the first drug in the second generation, that is afatinib, EGFR mutated, wild type also, and that was the reason that this drug has an activity in a squamous cell setting also. If you look at the T790M as compared to osimertinib, definitely less, but there are reports and the scientific evidence that afatinib, though second generation, has some activity in T790M. And osimertinib, which got a mutant specific approval initially, T790 mutation, and with the results of FLORA, so it got established into a first line for EGFR 19 and 21. Next. So coming to afatinib, if you look at the clinical trial program, so it got established into a first line, then second line, and beyond, and also in the squamous cell. If you look at the EGFR TKI naive patients who are on the afatinib trial, so it was Lux Lung 2, 3, 6, and 7. And if you talk about the EGFR TKI pre-treated patients, so those were Lux Lung 1 and 4. Treatment beyond progression was Lux Lung 5, and as compared to erlotinib, which was the previous standard in squamous cell post chemotherapy. So this Lux Lung 8 established that afatinib is better than erlotinib in a post-treated patient of a squamous cell carcinoma. Next. So these are the two talked about afatinib based Lux Lung trials. There's Lux Lung 3 and 6. So Lux Lung 3, the standard chemotherapy arm was pemetrexed and cisplatin was compared with afatinib in a 2:1 randomization. So you can see, so in the afatinib group as compared to chemotherapy, so almost 3 times the responses and almost doubling of the PFS. Coming to Lux Lung 6, almost same design, only the platinum, only the comparator chemotherapy arm was different, that is gemcitabine and platinum. Again, we can see almost tripling of the responses and doubling of the PFS. Next. So again, if you look at this, the PFS of these Lux Lung 3 and 6, which are the treatment naive patients, we can see there's an improvement in PFS significantly. You can see the curves separating significantly in both Lux Lung 3 and 6. Next. If you come to OS, so you can see the curves in the whole population. So you can see the EGFR mutated. So the OS is not significant as compared to the overall response rate and the PFS. Next. So that led us to do a subgroup analysis. Then it found that overall survival in those EGFR mutated patients, so probably deletion 19 is one subset, so where this drug afatinib was making more sense, and it was improving the overall survival beyond a year. So this is the first time when so we could crack the jinx of getting an overall survival benefit. So in the Lux Lung 3 and 6, the overall survival did not improve in the whole cohort, but deletion 19 subgroup, it showed a significant overall survival difference in both the Lux Lung 3 and Lux Lung 6. Next. So if you see by ethnicity, we have seen that so this EGFR mutated is actually depends upon the ethnicity. If you look at the non-Asians, then Asians, and as I said, probably Japanese, which will be probably the best in the cohort. If you take the example of EGFR mutated, you can see almost 47%, 47 months versus 31. So as I said, so Japanese probably have the highest EGFR mutation rates in the Asian subgroups. Next. Coming to Lux Lung 8, so as I said, so these are cohorts of patients which are not adenocarcinomas. This is squamous histology. So as a physician, as an oncologist, when you pick up a squamous histology in a lung cancer non-small cell, then at times you get depressed that probably your patients may not benefit with treatment because you have a lesser options as compared to an adenocarcinoma. So these are squamous advanced non-small cell where these patients are already exposed to an induction platinum combinations, and these patients were randomized to a previous standard erlotinib in a usual dose to afatinib in a 1:1 standard randomization. Next. So this showed that in Lux Lung 8, PFS independent review was it was improved. If you look at the hazard ratio 0.8 and p-value. Next, if you see the OS, so again, so numerical improvement with a hazard ratio of 0.1 and a significant p-value. Next. So if you look at objective response rate, which was again a p-value was significant, 40% versus 50%. If you look at the waterfall, so again you can see, so more patients responded in the afatinib group, whereas more patients had progressed in the allotinib group. Next, so this trial Lux Lung 8 actually showed us the way that hard to treat non-small cell lung carcinomas, that is squamous cell carcinomas, post platinum combination chemotherapy. So they should be offered afatinib to improve the PFS and overall survival. If you compare afatinib with allotinib on these four quality of life parameters like the coughing and the symptom improvement, dyspnea, pain, so you'll find that so the afatinib group actually has fared well as compared to the comparator, that is allotinib. Next. So coming to uncommon mutations, so we have talked about common mutations. So there are uncommon mutations, as I said. So 1 or 2 out of 10 patients sent for mutation analysis will be picked up uncommon mutations, where so usual stuff of this EGFR TKI doesn't work, except probably the robust data, and it is getting more and more robust with the use of second generation, especially afatinib. Next. So this is on the right side, you can see the common EGFR mutations versus the uncommon EGFR mutation, except the exon 10, 20 insertions. You can see, so the common EGFR mutations overall has a better survival as compared to the uncommon EGFR mutations. On the left hand side, you can see, if you compare responses of these uncommon mutations, afatinib with gepatinib and allotinib, you can see, so the curves are widely separated in favoring that uncommon mutations. So you have only one choice, that is afatinib. Next. So normally we talk about a CNS activity, CNS disease in ALK positive, but again, so while treating more and more patients, you'll find that even in EGFR patients down the lane, so these patients can have a disease progression in the CNS. So these are the patient populations where if they are mutated, the first choice comes to us is osimertinib, which is a third generation, which has a potential CNS activity. But if you look at the scientific evidence for even for the second generation, especially afatinib, so 40% lower risk of CNS progression than the non-CNS progression, and this is for afatinib. Next. So normal doses are usually 50 milligram, and most of the trials has used 40 milligram, but in clinical practice, probably for last few years, we have shifted to 30 milligram, understanding that so by decreasing the dose, so one thing is sure that you are significantly decreasing the toxicity, which is indirectly the quality of life issues, and thereby you are actually not compromising, because even with a lower dose, the responses and the survival are absolutely maintained. So on the extreme right is with the lowest dose, that is 30 milligram. So median time to tumor progress is 19.4 months. With 40 milligram, 17.7, and with 50 milligram, it is 19.5. So one should not shy away that this patient may not tolerate 50-40 milligram. So probably you can start even with 30 milligram, and this patient is going to respond, because so the lowering the dose doesn't actually affect the responses and the survival. Next. Proportion of patients receiving subsequent treatment, those who are put on first line EGFR TKI, you can see on those right hand sides, you can see almost 70% of the patients who are on this afatinib probably can receive subsequent chemotherapy on progression. Next. So before I conclude, so a bit of sequencing, since now there are 8 choices from none to many, so now you need evidence and an experience. So what to start and when to start and how do you sequence. So choosing the sequence in EGFR mutated non-small cell, the evidence one is that TKIs have almost replaced chemotherapy as a standard of care in the first line therapy, and we have understood for last 2 decades or so. The evidence too is that not all TKIs are equal. So you also know that the first generation, second generation, third generation are all different. The mechanism of action, the responses are absolutely different. The evidence three is that monitoring of tumor biology drives treatment sequencing. Number fourth is sequence makes survival. So once you are actually sequencing your treatment, so lot many patients will be benefited, and actually at the end you are improving the ways of these patients subset populations. The last evidence is that optimization of treatment sequences can help in a better way. Next. Choosing the TKI sequence in a EGFR mutated non-small cell lung cancer safety. So the LUX lungs showed a difference between afatinib and gefitinib. So the first generation versus second generation treatment discontinuation rate remains the same. So with higher doses of afatinib, we know that so in 40 and especially 50 milligram, so diarrhea is the most common, followed by rash. Where in gefitinib, so we need to be aware of liver function tests. So once these patients are following up, so probably our liver enzymes has to be seen frequently. But here, rash and acne are less as compared to the second generation afatinib. Coming to the flora, this osimertinib versus the first generation, that is gefitinib or alutinib. So you can see a discontinuation rates were much more as compared to the previous trials. In osimertinib, probably which is one of the best tolerated regimen drugs, so diarrhea again was 12%, decreased appetite in few patients. Next. So is sequencing important? Number one, the first in this slide is that if you put your patients on a first generation TKI, so you expect a PFS of around 10 months, 8 to 11 months. So once this patient progresses, so you can subject this patient for a liquid biopsy. So probably 50 to 60% of these patients will have T790M, and these patients can be a candidate for a osimertinib, thereby improving PFS of another 10 to 12 months. So it means that, so if you sequence first generation followed by a third generation in those patient population where there is a T790 mutation, so probably you are attaining a PFS of 19 to 23 months, that is almost 2 years. If you select afatinib or a second generation EGFR TKI, then you are actually at the first go only you have a 4 months of PFS improvement, that is 11 to 15 to 16 months, followed by liquid biopsy or a repeat biopsy, and the polio will pick up in another 50% of the patients with T790 mutations where osimertinib can be the first choice. So thereby adding on another 10 to 12 months. So that makes 22 to 27 months of overall survival in these patients where second generation was followed by third generation. And the third, which is the flora. So once you pick up an exon 19 that or a sensitive mutation, so probably you start on third generation drugs, attaining a beautiful PFS of more than 18 months. But the problem is that when this patient progresses, we know that so only chemotherapy is the option, and you might pick up mutations which are rare in nature, and then probably you can plan your therapy for those patients. Next. So as I said, so sequencing does matter. So the current status is that so the whole physician and the oncology fraternity is moving to sequence the EGFR mutated in starting with the second generation, gaining some PFS. Following that, on progression, you do a liquid EGFR, if 790M positive, then these patients are put on third generations. If those who are not, then probably they will receive chemotherapy. Next. So to conclude, so in regards to afatinib, if you see on the left hand side, adenocarcinoma, which constitutes almost 60% of the whole lung cancer populations. So it is approved in first line, it is approved in second line, it is approved beyond progression. If you talk about EGFR mutations, the survival benefit is seen in deletion 19. It is the only approved EGFR TKI for uncommon EGFR mutations. The T790M, which is a budge for third generation osimertinib. There is some activity of afatinib in the scientific literature. If we talk about CNS, again, the foothold of third generation, that is osimertinib, again, so there is some activity in our patients, even with a lower dose like 30 milligram. So probably we are not compromising on the efficacy. So efficacy is maintained. Less drug interaction, which is good because many of these patients are actually elderly patients who are already on a polypharmacy because of diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and thyroid issues. On the other hand, so this is another drug after erlotinib, which is already reported to be and already approved to be a second line for a squamous cell entity who are exposed to a chemotherapy platinum. Next. So to make you more understanding of this drug afatinib, in short, so this is a 20 lakh crore. So this was from the PM Modi's during this COVID time to give a boost to the economy. So afatinib in the end, if we talk about the cohort of anti-EGFR, either alone in combination. So if you are using afatinib, so it is getting affordable as compared to many others, many other third generations and the drugs. Second, as I said, so afatinib is basically a versatile anti-EGFR, and third is a powerful and a potent anti-EGFR. Next. So this is last but one slide. So afatinib is marketed in India as Jovoltib. You can see there are 8-letter words. So afatinib is marketed in rest of the world as Gilotrip, again 8-letter words. Afatinib itself, if you see, that is 8-letter words. So there is some phenomena must be there. And this the eponym is that, so A stands for an adenocarcinoma. We know that this is approved for an adenocarcinoma. F as a first line, A is an affordable anti-EGFR TKI as compared to the more potent anti-EGFR TKI. T stands for some activity in a T790M population, and I stands for in second line, especially for squamous cell carcinoma post-platinum combination. N stands for uncommon mutation. This is the only EGFR TKI that has been approved till date. And in squamous carcinoma, also in those 30% patient populations of non-small cell lung cancers, so where after erlotinib, probably afatinib is the only choice, and B, that is afatinib last B, is there is some brain activity which I have already shared with you. Next. So thank you. So so in these COVID times, so I just extend my thanks and regards to all those COVID warriors who have been fighting for the mankind. Thank you so much. Back to Ashish.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think I've received a single question, sir. I think a very simple question we received from the chat box is why Asian people have got higher mutation rates.
So that is an ethnical variance. So we have seen in diabetes, like Indian populations are more diabetic as compared to the rest of the world. So the cancer incidence in the developed world is different. We see more of breast cancers in the Western world, whereas we see in our country more of a cervical cancers. So the incidence of cancers, because of ethnicity, because of practices, because of lifestyle, and because of many things, because of awareness, are different. So there is no valid reasons that, so why there is a difference. So this is an ethnical differences, so which has been existing for many drugs, many diseases. So EGFR mutation is one such.
Thank you, sir. So I think that's the only question we received from the chat box. So before we end this, we would like to tell all the participants who are attending that everyone will be receiving an email for downloading the certificates as well as for filling up the feedback form as well. So before we end this, sir, I would like you to greet the audience for the last.
Thank you for those who have attended today's meeting. So we have started way back almost 2 months back. So this was the 8th webinar with the Technocrat and the BioLeaks group. So Ashish has always been there, helpful. So I think so. These last two have been sponsored, and this time we extend thanks to the Boirangam who has supported in this journey. So in time to come, so we'll continue our endeavor to reach to people, and we'll come up with uh, with common cancers, so that will be understandable to all those who are attending such webinars. So till that time, so I think it's time to say goodbye. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you, sir. And before we end it, I would again like to thanks Professor Dr. Ghanshyam Biswa, sir, for the informative session. And we would like to also thank Boehringer for supporting us with this event. So we assure you that we will be coming up with more interesting webinars in the future as well. So till that time, goodbye from us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.